Thank you, Governor. It is great to be here in the great state of Arizona. I want to say to the Glenn family, thank you so much for hosting us. Thank you for your incredible hospitality. Thank you for an amazing Arizona meal we just had, and a great opportunity to tour the border and to visit and to hear from ranchers and landowners down here. Sheriff Daniels, thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership, your public service. Thank you for risking your life, you and the men and women who serve with you, risking your life every day to keep us safe. Thank you. And we are so grateful for the law enforcement, especially the law enforcement all along our southern border, that face the day-to-day threat of drug cartels coming across, of transnational criminal organizations that are terrorizing communities. Speaker Gowan, thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership. I know it is important and significant in Arizona to have the first Speaker of the House from Southern Arizona in decades. And thank you for giving a strong voice to the men and women here in the state legislature. And Governor Perry, thank you so much for your friendship, for your incredible leadership, for your service. Thank you for, as a border governor, dealing with these problems every day for 14 years as governor of Texas. And when the federal government failed to step in and do its job, thank you for your leadership in the state of Texas, deploying resources and manpower on the border to help address this problem. You know, today we just finished having lunch, and I had the opportunity to visit with ranchers from down here in southern Arizona, and I'll tell you, the bulk of the lunch I spoke very little. I spent most of the time just listening, just hearing their stories, hearing the volume of traffic every day, of drug cartels smuggling across, groups coming across with backpacks filled with drugs, groups that are heavily armed. I heard one rancher who told a story of the cartels, at least one of the smugglers apparently monitoring her, finding where she keeps the key. And then this drug smuggler would, with some regularity, come into her home, use her key, unlock the front door, take a shower, make a meal, wash the dishes, go to bed, sleep, get up and leave and lock the door behind him. I want you to think, for folks in other parts of the country, how you would feel having a drug smuggler monitoring you and entering and leaving your home with impunity. Every rancher here described break-ins they face as just a routine matter of living near the border. You know, President Obama tells us the border's secure. Well, I invite him to move the White House down to the southern border. Let's see how secure it is. The ranchers here deal every day with the threats that tragically took the life of a well-respected rancher not too far from here. Threats that challenge our basic safety and security. I also heard from ranchers the experience of encountering the bodies of dead people, left abandoned by coyotes, who, it's worth underscoring that the people smuggling illegal aliens into America, they are not good-hearted social workers with beards and Birkenstocks. They are hardened, vicious, violent criminals. And far too often they abandon women or children. Those who are sick, they abandon them in the desert to die. This is a national security crisis. And it's a crisis that the federal government is refusing to do its job and solve. I'll tell you one individual who's here with me today who has experienced firsthand the consequences of that is Steve Ronabeck. Steve's son, Grant, was murdered here in Arizona. Grant was 19 years old, had a promising future in front of him, was working in a convenience store when an illegal alien came in, put a handful of change on the counter and demanded some cigarettes. And Grant began counting out the change when this illegal alien pulled out a gun and put it in his face. Grant quickly grabbed the cigarettes and just gave it to him. but for no reason whatsoever other than hatred and malice and evil, this illegal immigrant shot and murdered Grant Ronnebeck. This illegal immigrant had been in and out of jail. He was a known criminal. He shouldn't have been in America. He should have been deported. He should have been incarcerated. He shouldn't have been in a position where 19-year-old boys face the barrel of a gun and are murdered because the federal government refuses to do its job. Steve, thank you for being here. We mourn the loss of your son. And unfortunately, Steve's story is far too common. In every state in the Union, there are people who've lost their lives to criminal illegal aliens. Whether the Steinle family up in San Francisco, whether in my home state of Texas, the Ertman and Pena families, who lost their little girls in a horrific crime. For far too long, we've had a president. We've had a federal government that does not do its job. And I'll tell you, it's striking, whether you're in Arizona or Texas, when you visit with landowners, when you visit with ranchers, when you visit with those on the border, the answers you hear are the same. The uncertainty, the threats, people crossing your land regularly with impunity, the unwillingness to go up and confront them, because if you go up and confront them, you're taking your life in your hand. And also, the question that I ask every conversation I have, particularly with those on the borders, how do we solve this problem? Far too many in the media too often suggest we cannot solve the problem. That is a lie. We know how to solve this problem. What's missing is the political will. What's missing is we have a president who, as a partisan political matter, supports illegal immigration. And he handcuffs the Border Patrol. There are a lot of brave men and women serving in the Border Patrol, and I'll tell you, morale in the Border Patrol could not be lower than it is right now. When you have a president, when you have political operatives who oppose your basic mission, who punish you when you enforce the law, it becomes very difficult to do your job and do it effectively. We know how to solve this problem. What is missing is the political will to get it done. The most important tool for solving and securing the border is boots on the ground. That's the answer every rancher here said. When I asked that question, it's the answer people say in Texas, they say all across the country on the border, that nothing is more important than having boots on the ground. When you detect an attempted incursion, to be able to direct those boots on the ground and be there quickly. Not be there in 6 hours after they're already gone, but be there quickly. Rapid response. And rapid response not 30 or 50 miles in, but on the border. A focus on prevention. At the border, turning people around, a visible, uniform presence, boots on the ground. And the federal government should not be treating state and local law enforcement as their adversaries. We're blessed here to have a number of state and local law enforcement that are risking their lives every day. They don't have the resources to handle this problem. But the federal government should be working hand in hand in close partnership with state and local law enforcement to solve this problem. We've had a president for 7 years that doesn't want to solve this problem. Well, I'll tell you this, if I'm elected president in January 2017, that is going to end. We will solve this problem, we will secure the border, and we will end illegal immigration. Allie, although I got to ask, are those rattlesnake shoes? That's awfully fitting for the environs.
I've been told to avoid the rock balls, Senator. I want to ask you about Mitt Romney planning to vote for you, but specifically not fully endorsing you. He says conservatives should back you to force an open convention, suggesting some party leaders have decided who they don't want to be the nominee, but they haven't fully decided on who they do want to be the nominee. So why haven't Mitt Romney and others fully endorsed you in a wholehearted way?
Well, listen, I very much appreciated Governor Romney's kind tweet today where he announced that he is going to vote for me in the Utah election, and he encouraged others to do the same. Listen, in my book, when someone says, I'm voting for you and I encourage everyone else to vote for you, that's pretty darn good, and I'll take that and take that happily.
His campaign specifically pushed back against the idea it is an endorsement, though. What does that tell you?
What it tells me is we're seeing Republicans coming together. We're seeing Republicans unite all across this country. You know, this campaign, this primary started out with 17 candidates, started out with a fantastic, diverse, young, talented field. And the field has now narrowed dramatically. And as a practical matter, there are only 2 candidates that have any plausible path to winning the Republican nomination, either Donald Trump or me. And what we are seeing is the 60 to 65 to 70% of Republicans who recognize that Donald Trump would be a disaster, that if we nominate Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton wins. If we nominate Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton becomes president, this border doesn't get secured. If Hillary Clinton becomes president, we lose the Supreme Court for a generation. We lose the Bill of Rights. We lose our Second Amendment. If Hillary Clinton becomes president, our kids are buried in a mountain of debt, and their futures are put into jeopardy. And what we are seeing is we are seeing across the spectrum Republicans uniting behind our campaign, as Mitt Romney observed today. If you want to beat Donald Trump, Cruz is the only campaign that can do it. That's why he's voting for me in Utah. And Governor Romney explicitly observed that a vote for John Kasich only helps Donald Trump. That dynamic, that unifying that we're seeing all across the country. To be standing here with Governor Rick Perry, to be standing later today with Carly Fiorina, to see Republicans all across this country coming together and uniting is tremendously encouraging. And I'll say both Arizona and Utah, when you vote on Tuesday, are going to have a powerful national voice for this country.
If you'll indulge me in one more, Senator, there's been no secret, and you've made no secret, that the Washington establishment is not a huge fan of yours. Do you worry that those relationships are preventing folks in Washington from backing you?
Well, listen, I am very grateful to see the unity that we're seeing, to see so many Republicans coming together and standing together behind our campaign. Now, it's worth underscoring, there is no doubt that every day I've been in Washington, I've been standing up to Washington. It's part of the reason why so many Americans are energized and excited by our campaign, because we've seen for a long time the Washington cartel, career politicians in both parties that get in bed with the lobbyists and special interests and grow government. And it's why people are frustrated. It's why people are angry. We're betrayed. We're tired of being lied to. And what I have done every day in the Senate is stand up to Washington, not just to Democrats, but leaders of my own party, and honor the promises and commitments that I made to 27 million Texans who elected me to go and represent them. When I ran for the Senate initially, I said, if you elect me, I will fight with every breath in my body to stop the disaster that is Obamacare, to stop amnesty and to secure the border, to stop the debt that is bankrupting our kids and grandkids, to defend religious liberty and the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights. And every day in the Senate, I have honored that promise and stood with the American people against the corruption of Washington. Now, we welcome the support of everyone. We welcome everyone with open arms. And part of the process of a primary is uniting everyone, but I would note that they are uniting behind a strong, conservative, optimistic message for this country. We're going to change the direction this country is going. We are going to turn away from the manifest failures of the Obama-Clinton economy. We're going to bring back millions of high-paying jobs. We're going to repeal every word of Obamacare. We're going to adopt a simple flat tax and abolish the IRS. And we're going to pull back the federal regulators that are killing small businesses. And that's going to end up raising wages all across this country. That's going to end up giving young people coming out of school 2, 3, 4, 5 job opportunities. And I am glad to see Republicans uniting behind a strong, positive, optimistic, constitutional, conservative agenda, an agenda that defends the hardworking taxpayers.
What did you see on the border today?
You know, on the border today, it was striking just how unsecure the border is. Where we toured the border, the fencing was minimal. Indeed, as we stopped and stood on the border, several of the folks here in the media taking pictures, decided they'd get a better picture from the other side of the fence, so they promptly climbed the fence and crossed illegally into the nation of Mexico. Took all of 10 seconds to climb the fence and get a better shot from another nation. I'm not sure if the Mexican authorities will be arresting any of our members of the media. But it says something that this was not a complicated endeavor. This was just, oh, the camera shot's a little better from over in Mexico, let's cross over. Well, you know, if you're a drug coyote, if you're bringing